Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
Attention Ditto Heads. Attention Bo Scouts.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
It's time for the Soul of Excellence.
He is a radio host here in New York.
The Rush Hour is on the air.
Rush.
Now here's James Golden.
There is a lot of news here at home domestically. The president also just making news a few moments ago on the Texas Senate primary. He just endorsed the attorney general down there, Ken Paxton, for the Senate race. This is in direct opposition to the leadership, the GOP leadership on Capitol Hill, including John Thune, who is backing John Cornyn for that seat.
Yeah. We have the reactions, some of them anyway. Welcome, my friends, to the Tuesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, fastest hour in American media. You know, the left today, not just the left, but the left in particular, they're losing their poop. They're losing it. The compensation this compensation they're losing their minds. They are it's beyond the usual losing their minds. They are enraged, livid. And you know what? When I first heard about it, I was like, really? And I'm not. You know, I heard Scott Jennings say he's not so comfortable with it. I'm not either, but at the same time, I'm enjoying every minute of it because of the reaction that it is garnering the mainstream press and the left. Tomorrow's primary day in 6 states. Georgia is one of them. President made an endorsement in the Georgia race as well. But this compensation form, they're losing it. And to me, that's always hysterical. Here's the New York Times story. Trump administration live updates. Deal on compensation fund blocks IRS claims against president and his family. President made an agreement with the Justice Department to settle his lawsuit against the IRS, which they were already fuming about. President Trump sued the IRS. Liberals got mad. How dare he sue the IRS? No other president has sued the IRS. He's suing the IRS. How is this possible? So he settles the lawsuit. And in the settlement, there's a provision barring the IRS from pursuing tax claims against President Trump, his family, or his businesses. Now, that would have been enough to send them over the moon. But that wasn't all. That provision came a day after we got word that the Justice Department agreed to settle the Trump lawsuit by creating a $1.8 billion compensation fund for people that he thinks were wronged by federal investigations or prosecutions. The Treasury top lawyer stepped down after the fund was created, according to 3 people familiar with the move. In a one-page document signed by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and quietly posted. How do you quietly post? How do you quietly post something? When you post something on a website, do you post it loudly or do you post it sort of? When you post something, Carlos, do you post it quietly or do you post it loudly?
I think posting something quietly is when you tell nobody about it. You just post it.
But who are you supposed to tell about it? That's why you're posting it. You're posting it so that people can see it.
But you didn't talk about it, that you're going to post it, so nobody knew you were going to post. So it was a quiet post.
Okay, I'll buy that. Anyway, they quietly posted it. Official vowed not to pursue any matters, including those involving Mr. Trump's tax return, that are currently pending. Todd Blanche was at congressional hearings today. And I got to tell you, folks, it wasn't. We can just go right to it. I'm getting myself out of the order that I thought I was going to do. But let's just go ahead and get to it. This exchange, cut 7, by Todd. This will show you how it went. When I tell you they're losing their cookies today, they are losing their poop today, the Democrats. They are totally losing their poop. Listen to Chris Van Hollen, he of the Margaritaville down there with the MS-13 gangbanger. Here is Chris Van Hollen with Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche today.
There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of, quote, people named.
How about Ghislaine Maxwell? Can you commit that you will?
Yes, I can commit to that, of course.
Okay. Let me go back to this slush fund, because there's also an individual who, after being pardoned by the president, went on to molest 2 children. And that person actually tried to buy the silence of these children by saying that he would pay them some of the funds that he was hoping to get from your slush fund. Can you commit to making the rules so that that person is not eligible for a payout under this fund?
Well, you're obviously lying in your question, because there's no way that this person committed to that. The slush fund, as you call it, which is not, didn't exist.
I'm sure,
but I can commit.
Mr. Attorney General, don't ever do that again. I am reporting
what again?
What he said. He said on the expectation that he hoped to get some of the funds from a payout. He's been hearing
you said from the slush fund, Senator, and that didn't exist when he said that.
This is the fund that the president and all of you have been telegraphing all along that you're going to use to help the president's friends.
Can you point to
Mr.
a single
Attorney General,
telegraph
I have a last question.
What telegraph did I
have a last question for
Okay.
you. Do you know that it is a criminal offense to lie to Congress?
I am very well aware of that.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
That was just one. And let's listen to Senator Merkley, another one. Here's cut 8, another one of these senators with it. Don't ever say that. You're obviously lying with your question. Don't ever. Why? You are lying. Nobody knew about this fund back then. It was only quietly posted last night. Well, the night before. I mean, goodness gracious. Anyway, here's Merkley.
The Department of Justice and the FBI have evidence that a crime's been committed. And that doesn't, I mean, you're talking about evidence.
You commit to pursue regardless of political affiliation?
Excuse me, Senator?
Do you commit to pursuing investigations free of prejudice about party affiliation?
Of course, yes.
Well, you say of course, but this president has repeatedly spoken of an enemies list that he wants to go after. And I must say it's one of the symbols of the breakdown of a democratic republic when a president uses his Department of Justice, which you now head, to go after his perceived political enemies. I hope you won't be party to that. Thank you.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, and that's why what happened during the Biden administration was so disgusting.
That is completely inappropriate and wrong. There is no comparison to the absolute fair-minded pursuit of justice under the previous administration and this administration's pursuit of an enemies list. Thank you.
Senator Murray.
Yeah, well, he cut him off there. There was absolutely, Joe Biden's Justice Department has been demonstrated. Look at everything the Biden administration did. And we could keep going over the same laundry list time and time and time and time again, but Democrats won't want to talk about it. Going from the way that the intelligence and the law enforcement agencies were used with this phony Russia hoax, going on to them spying on Trump's campaign, going on to the Justice Department weaponized, trying to attack their political foes, including, as we all remember, or most of us do, traditional Catholics said to be the army, also pro-life people prosecuted just for being pro-life and protesting. Come on. And Merkley can stand up, Democrats can stand up all they want to and say that the Democrats didn't weaponize the DOJ. Of course they did. And there's rampant evidence of it. Anyway, J.D. Vance did the press secretary role today. Press secretary's out on maternity leave. And he was asked by reporters about this fund. I'll tell you what we're going to do first, though. We're going to take a break so that we can actually hear from it without rushing into the next break. James Golden, Snerdley. Keep it right here. Fastest hour in American media.
Rush. This is the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Bo Snerdley.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
Wait, I don't understand. How? What do you mean it costs $500 and something dollars to get a ticket to go see the New York Knicks play? Who's paying? And that's if you're up in the nosebleed section, way up there at the top near the roof line. You have to pay $543 for a ticket.
Yeah, close to 600 probably.
So if you take I started to say something, but then I would be this is New York with time. So I was about to say, if you take your girl, which you would assume, that
2 tickets?
Yeah, that's over a G's to go see the Knicks play. And then you're up in the cheap seats, and she's going to be looking at you like you're Joe Cheapskate. You're not getting on tonight because you invite me on a date, and the seats are the worst seats in the place, and you think you're going to get some for that? And so you're up at the top, and it costs you $500+ to go at the top to see. How much if you are just sitting in a regular seat? If you were like sitting somewhere, who's paying that kind of money to go see the Knicks? And why? And why? Folks, I'm sorry. There's a lot that I didn't know. I'm trying to catch up because apparently the Knicks are actually having a postseason this year. And it's been since the 70s. And so I'm just curious. And then they're telling me that there are teams out there in the West Coast, some people that have Spurs on or something, and then some bunch of Thunder people. And I'm like, when did the Thunder people come? And apparently the Thunder people are the champions. And I didn't even know that there were Thunder people. But then I found out that they came from Seattle, and they're the Supersonics. So it must be they wanted to escape Seattle because all the homeless people were probably blocking their stadium and nobody could get in to go, or their field. And, last time I was in Seattle, it was scary. And it's getting worse than what I hear. It's not as bad as L.A., but it's getting close. And so, and then you told me that if the Knicks actually win this time around, how much is it going to cost to go see them in the finals?
It's probably going to be close to $3,500.
$3,500 a ticket to go to a basketball game.
All the way up.
This is crazy. How is this allowed to happen? I don't know. And you say that they're sold out with those prices.
Yeah.
No, they're not sold out. You can get tickets.
Oh, you can get tickets. They're not sold out. And then if they are sold out, then people are going to be doing what they usually do and trying to sell the tickets, for profit. Oh, boy. Is that guy with the glasses, that movie guy, is he still there every time, front row? Spike Lee, yeah. He must be having a good year. Okay. Anyway, I took up all the time talking about basketball. I'm sorry, folks, but I was curious. Not knowing. I wonder what Sid thinks about all of this, because, you know, Sid is a sports guy. I wonder if Sid is all for the Knicks doing this. Is he going to go to any of the games? Rosenberg. Anyway, J.D. Vance was asked about this fund, and I think we have time to... No, we don't. Yes, we do. We'll try. Cut 5. Let's see if we can just get started with it anyway. We may have to cut it off.
I understand that everybody is eligible to apply for this fund. I mean, you're eligible, but I assume you're not going to apply, and you don't think you should get money out of this fund. Of course. So isn't it just as easy to say that people that attacked police officers should not get taxpayer money from this fund?
Well, look, John, we're not trying to give money to anybody who attacked a police officer. We're trying to we're trying to compensate people where the book was thrown at them. They were mistreated by the legal system. Sometimes, you know, we do have, John, in this country, innocent until proven guilty. We do have people who were accused of attacking law enforcement officers. That doesn't mean that we're going to completely ignore some of the claims that they're going to make. We're going to evaluate these things on a case-by-case basis. And if we think that somebody, whatever they were accused of, if we think that somebody was unfairly prosecuted and deserves just compensation, then that's what this fund is going to exist to provide. It's just going to correct a wrong, and I think that's a good thing. And I'd encourage everybody, Democrat, Republican, Independent, let's turn the page on this thing that we did under the last administration where we tried to throw people in prison because they had the wrong politics.
My friends, there is a ticket. There are 2 tickets left for $7,000 in change.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
James Golden, Snerdley, fastest hour in American media. Princess Diana's going to be on the show with me tomorrow. At least that's the plan. We're going to talk about China, and also, I'm sure, this slush fund that they're calling the slush fund. I am still laughing myself silly. These people are losing their minds. I'm losing my mind. Folks, I'm not kidding. There's a ticket tonight. There are 2 left. Only 2 left. So if you're in the New York area and you want to take your lady out tonight, you can go to the Garden, and there are 2 tickets left. You'll have good seats, and you only have to pay $7,444 per ticket. And there are 2 left. It's seven. Just call it $7,500 a piece. By the time you leave a tip, probably for the person that sells you the ticket, they probably want a tip anyway. So just $7,500 a piece. Now, again, if you're a guy and you are looking to impress your lady, and you say your budget is maybe $1,200, I don't know, because you could pay, for instance, you could pay $670 per ticket, so that's over $1,200, and you could be sitting at the absolute top of Madison Square Garden, up so high, everything on below looks like a bunch of ants. You need binoculars. You might need a telescope to really see individuals down there. And you're paying $670 a piece for those. And if you take a girl, let's say your first date, I'm going to take you somewhere nice. I'm going to take you to see a Knicks game. First date. She gets all dressed up. You take her, and then you're sitting at the top of Madison Square Garden, and you think you're going to get some when you take her home. You're going to get the door slammed in your face. How dare you take me for a first date and you take me to the cheapest freaking seats that there are where I can't even see anything? But baby, These tickets were $1,200. Get out. Cheapskate loser. Man. And I was just saying, so if they actually win this stuff and they go into the finals, Carlos said the tickets, didn't you tell me, everything here is going to be doubled. So there'll probably be tickets going for about $14,000 a piece. And if you're in the cheap seats, maybe $1,200 a piece. Just to sit up near the top where you can't even see. What a racket. Threw me off my game. I had never intended to talk about this stuff today, but see what you started, Carlos? Anyway, let's get back to the politics of the day, folks. J.D. Vance, okay, we're not trying to, this is not a slush fund. Blah, blah, blah. As I said, Democrats are losing their stuff. Let's go to CNN. Scott Jennings, uncomfortable with it. Cut 9. This is Ana Navarro. She was having a meltdown. They all are. On the MSM channels, they're totally losing their stuff. Here you go.
A $1.7 billion slush fund to pay his supporters and the people who feel victimized. I mean, I'm so old. I remember when most Republicans used to balk and be shocked and outraged by the idea of reparations to people who suffered slavery. But we're going to be giving money to January 6th insurrectionists. That part's okay. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Scott, is this reparations?
Look, I think there's a lot about it we don't know. I don't know who's on the committee. I don't know exactly who's going to be applying for it.
The people that Trump approves.
Well, they say anybody can apply for it, and I don't think.
Okay, I'll apply for it. You think I'll get it?
Have you ever been unfairly targeted by the Department of Justice?
I have been unfairly targeted by this administration. Yeah.
Have you been unfairly prosecuted by the Department of Justice?
Are those the people that are going to be in this?
So the answer is no, you haven't. So the issue is, the question is, has anyone in the history of the United States ever been unfairly targeted by the Department of Justice? Of course they have, and there ought to be, just at a top line, a way for people to seek recourse if they have been unfairly targeted. That having been said, this all started by the fact that Donald Trump had his tax returns unfairly and illegally leaked by the IRS. That's where all this started, and he was initially seeking damages for that, which he has given up. He'll receive no money, as I understand it, and now it has morphed into this idea that there have been people that have been unfairly targeted. All of this makes me a little uncomfortable because it's a lot of money and it didn't go through the U.S. Congress. That's number one. Number two, I don't want to see a president necessarily handpicking people to get payments where he could be accused of just picking people out who are political allies. But do I want a world where if you've been unfairly targeted by the federal government and it was truly unfair and you truly had something done to you that should not have been done, do I think people should be able to seek recourse for that? Absolutely. Let
me just say this about that. All these complaints about slush funds. Democrats have been slushing funds forever. And you go back to, we talked about the other day, the infrastructure bills. $760 some odd billion, $750 billion when Obama was president that Joe Biden was supposed to look after. And then another $1 trillion when Biden was president. So you have almost $2 trillion in infrastructure spending. And I dare anybody to come up with a comprehensive list and say, yep, this is what we got out of the... Now, you can find one or two road projects here and there that happen, but you cannot account for almost all, I would bet. I bet most people would have a hard time trying to account for where that money was spent. You look at the deals that have been made with environmentalist groups, where we later learned that the courts were involved with these groups, and they were riddled with conflicts of interest. And some of these are multi-billion-dollar settlements in terms of the environment. Nobody says a word. Look at the fraud that's been uncovered in just Minnesota and California alone. In fact, I read today a story. California is the only state that has refused to pay back their COVID area loans, and that's some $20 billion. And there's no outrage over it. So you get this $1.8 billion thing here, and everybody's losing their minds. Everybody. I don't necessarily like the deal, to be totally candid, but I find it humorous and funny, the reaction to the deal. So to me, I will put my my mild sort of, I don't know about this, aside for the humor of it all. Because watching liberals lose their poop over this is truly entertaining. Moving on. You heard the president has nominated Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton has been talking about his opponent, John Cornyn. Thune came out today, and I read, I don't know whether we even have it here. Thune says, Cornyn is such a great conservative and all that. If he was a great conservative, anyway, here's Ken Paxton talking about his opponent in that Texas race, cut 15. And Ken Paxton has a lot of detractors, including one of my very, very dearest, he's like a brother to me, Louis Gohmert, out of Texas. And I'm going to tell you, Louis is not a fan of Ken Paxton at all. And he's in Texas, and he knows the ins and outs of the political system there. But all of that aside, I am not a fan of Cornyn. Too many times Cornyn has been, to me, the epitome of a RINO on too many occasions. But anyway, here's the interesting point raised by Ken Paxton, cut 15, on his opponent in that race, John Cornyn.
So then the question is, and I've asked this in every meeting I've been in since April the 8th of last year, whether it's 50 people, one person, thousands of people, the question is this: John Cornyn's been in office not just 24 years in the Senate, but I'm going to give him the whole 42 years. He was a state district judge. He was a Supreme Court justice for Texas. He was attorney general. Can anybody name one significant accomplishment in those 42 years? Do you know I've never had anybody give me an answer in a year and 2 months? We've let this guy stay and represent us. Now, look, if he was in Massachusetts, I'd accept it if he's a Republican. But for Texas to not have, it's like we have one hand tied behind our back. We got Ted Cruz over here punching with his right hand. I know it's right-handed. And John Cornyn, we don't have that punch. As a matter of fact, we have just the opposite. So I've also said to people, look at any 2 weeks I've been in office as Attorney General, except for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I guarantee you, we've accomplished more in 2 weeks, any 2 weeks, and John can pick the 2 weeks, than he's accomplished in 42 years. Now, that's pathetic.
Interesting. Carlos took the initiative and found John Thune. Thank you, Carlos. Let's hear from John Thune and his statement after this announcement from President Trump.
You've spent months trying to persuade the president to endorse John Cornyn in the Texas primary, and given that the NRSC has invested heavily to help Cornyn win that primary, how personally disappointed or frustrated are you with the president's decision to endorse Ken Paxton today?
Well, I think you all know my position on this issue. I've made it very clear for months now. And Senator Cornyn is a principled conservative. He is a very effective senator for the state of Texas. But none of us control what the president does. He made his decision about that. That doesn't change the way I feel. I am certainly supportive of, will continue to be supportive of Senator Cornyn and his reelection.
How much harder has he made it to keep the majority? How much harder has the president's decision here made it for you? Your number one job is to keep the Republican majority, given your concerns about Ken Paxton's viability as a candidate.
We look at lots of races around the country. And the majority runs through a lot of different states. We have 24 seats up this time. The Democrats have only 9, so we've got a lot more ground to defend. We also have a couple of offensive opportunities. So, one state doesn't determine the outcome of this election, but obviously we care about every state, and we care about helping see our incumbents succeed. That being said, I feel very good about where we are. As I've said before, I think when it comes to winning elections... Yeah.
Blather. He's not answering the question. Enough of that. Let's head to a break, because we got to get to the clip of the day coming back. It's a doozy, folks. They always are a doozy for the clip of the day. That's why they are the clip of the day, etc., etc. Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, the Tuesday edition If you just joined us, Princess Diana is going to be on tomorrow. At least that's what we're planning. Things could always change. You know how that goes. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. Clip of the day coming up.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
Rush.
Now, here's James Golden.
You know, these two conservatives went, it's not a joke, these two conservatives went into a Panda Express in near Seattle, Washington State. It's in Lakeland. And the guys had on red hat, Make America Great hat. Well, that was enough. The employees of this Panda Express called the police because these guys wore a Make America Great cap into the store and gave them a thumbs up when they were like, they said, is it a problem? Your hat's a problem. They gave them a thumbs up. So they called the cops on these guys and told the cops, apparently falsely, that these customers were refusing to leave. But they were outside of the restaurant, and then they were filming it. Police came in and told the staff, look, these guys didn't do anything wrong. The girl that calls 911 starts crying and goes back in. And then Panda Express gives some lame expression to all of this, what happened in their restaurant. We want everyone who walks into a Panda Express to feel welcome and treated with respect. Well, that didn't happen, and apparently these employees, and no sanctions against them either. Great, Panda Express. Nice going. Clip of the day, very quickly. 13. Democrats refusing to release their autopsy on what happened after
This is
Kamala
getting
Harris
bizarre,
lost.
Stuart. Yeah. And for a while, one of the theories was maybe it's going to be very
Benson
embarrassing to Kamala Harris.
Has
they don't
a
want to
great
do that to her because she might run again.
theory.
But she's come out and said, release this thing. I don't really believe that theory makes sense, at least in my mind. So I've got a new one, and I'm going to lay it on you. And it might be the only one that I can really compute that would explain why they continue to hold this thing close to the vest, even though the party's in revolt, the base wants to see it. Why withhold it? I suspect, I could be wrong, but I suspect it would be very embarrassing to the Democratic National Committee and some of the recommendations that they may have put out after the loss. I think maybe the explanation is they said we've got to moderate on immigration, crime, trans issues, those types of things, having lost. They realize, well, we've just been in full resistance mode and it seems to be working for us. Our base will be furious if they see that we wanted us to cooperate with Donald Trump. Let's keep that under wraps. To me, that's the explanation that at least holds some water that would explain the self-preservation instinct of the people doing the withholding.
That makes sense. Guy Benson may be right as to why the Democrats refuse to release their autopsy report on what happened to them in the last presidential cycle. They don't want to start a revolt now with what they thought then. On this day, my friends, in 1967, the Beatles held a press party at Brian Epstein's house, no relation to the other Epstein that we know of, in London for the launch of the Sgt. Pepper album. About a dozen journalists, broadcasters came along with several photographers, including Linda Eastman, who had met Paul McCartney just 4 days before them, would later marry him, of course. They chomped on poached salmon and caviar and were served champagne. The Sgt. Pepper album, with a little help from my friends, Lucy in the Skies with Diamonds, and one of my favorites, She's Leaving Home. Speaking of leaving, time for us to depart for the day. May God bless and protect each and every, I love this song, every single one of you. Your families, your loved ones. God willing, my friends, we'll be back tomorrow. Perhaps even with Princess Di for the Wednesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. There are 2 tickets left if you want, I think, for the 7 grand tickets at Madison Square tonight, if you're in the New York area. Until tomorrow, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Get ready, Staten Island. It's time to celebrate 5 years of Very Hawks baseball.
Tuesday, May 19th at 10:30 a.m., it's morning baseball. Wednesday, May 20th at 6:30 p.m., have a pawsome time at Bark in the Park. Thursday, May 21st at 6:30, it's Pride Night with $5 Bud or Bud Light draft beer. Individual game tickets start at just $12.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.